All right. Today, we're going to break down the story of one of the most iconic teams in the history of sports, the Chicago Bulls. And look, this isn't just about basketball. It's about how a franchise that was, frankly, struggling became this global phenomenon that completely changed the game forever. So, yeah, let's get right into it. God disguised as Michael Jordan. Just let that sink in. When Larry Bird, an all-time great in his own right, said this, he just perfectly captured the magic that was about to unfold. But here's the fascinating part, right? He was talking about a player on a team that for years was, well, anything but legendary. So to really get how the Bulls reached these unbelievable heights, we have to go back. We got to start at their much, much more humble beginnings. Okay, let's rewind the clock all the way back to 1966. At this point, Chicago was really just trying to make a professional basketball team stick. That's right, the Bulls were the city's third shot at an NBA team. And, against all odds, they actually had the best first season of any expansion team in NBA history up to that point. They even made the playoffs right out of the gate. And through the 70s, the team was respectable. They were tough, they'd make the playoffs here and there, but they just couldn't quite capture the city's imagination. Fan interest started to drop. And honestly, it felt like this third attempt might end up just like the first two. And then came the 1984 NBA Draft. With the third pick, one single choice changed the course of sports history forever. Building a dynasty isn't an accident. It's a process. And the front office, led by general manager Jerry Krause, started putting the puzzle pieces together around their new superstar. First, of course, they drafted Jordan. Then, in '87, a huge move brings in Scottie Pippen and Horace Grant. And finally, Phil Jackson gets promoted to head coach. The foundation was officially set. But hey, this was anything but an overnight success story. Before they could ever win, they had to learn how to lose. And boy, did they lose. For 3 straight years, the super physical bad boys Detroit Pistons just bullied them and knocked them right out of the playoffs. It was this brutal but absolutely necessary rite of passage. But in 1991, everything flipped. The Bulls finally broke through, they beat the Pistons, and what came next was a run that took the NBA to a whole new level. Okay, the 1995-96 season, it's just legendary. It was right after Jordan came back from playing baseball, and many people think it's one of the greatest single seasons in sports history, period. Think about the steps to perfection here. They add their old enemy, the rebounding machine, Dennis Rodman. Then they go on to win an absolutely insane 72 games. And then they just storm their way to another title. Just unstoppable. Their success made them so much more than just champions. They became this worldwide cultural phenomenon. They weren't just a basketball team anymore. They were a global brand. A few numbers really tell the story of this dynasty. First up, 6. That's how many NBA championships they won in just 8 years. Next up, 2. As in 2 separate three-peats. That's winning 3 championships in a row twice. An incredibly rare feat. And now, maybe the most important number of them all, 0. That's how many times they lost in the NBA Finals. When they got to the big dance, they were perfect. But just as quickly and as brilliantly as the dynasty was built, it was torn down. The end came so fast. The contrast here is it's staggering. Instead of trying to keep the team together, the front office made the really controversial choice to tear it all down and start from scratch. And the result was this immediate, painful plummet from the very top of the sport to the absolute bottom. In just one offseason, it was all over. Jordan retired again, Phil Jackson left, Pippen got traded, Rodman was released, and just like that, the core of one of the greatest teams ever assembled was gone. So, what's the real lasting impact of the 1990s Chicago Bulls? I mean, why are we still talking about them so much today? Well, I think it really comes down to one word: perfection. That flawless 6-0 record on basketball's biggest stage is a totally unique achievement. It's the thing that truly sets them apart from every other dynasty in the history of the game. And they didn't just win games, They were a huge reason the NBA became so popular all around the world. This logo, it became a global symbol of excellence, something people recognized everywhere on the planet. And that's really the question their story leaves us with. When you look at how sports work today with all the player movement, teams trying to build super teams overnight, it really makes you wonder, could a dynasty built like that, through the draft, developed over years of tough losses, and held together by that kind of chemistry. Could that ever happen again? It's a question that makes their incredible run seem even more like lightning in a bottle.